Welcome to Assembly Calendar. I'm Mike Friesen. With us for our program today, Assemblyman Michael Norris. Assemblyman Mike Norris represents the 144th Assembly District in New York State. That's an Assembly District that includes the counties of Niagara, Erie, and Orleans. And we want to thank you folks all across Western New York for tuning in for our program today. Assemblyman Norris, nice to see you. It's nice to meet you. This is our first show together. Congratulations. Welcome to the New York State Assembly.
Thank you very much, Mike, for having me today. It's my pleasure and privilege to represent the people of the 144th District and the people of Western New York in the New York State Assembly. I'm really looking forward to this challenge and being a strong advocate for the people of Western New York.
You know, Jane Corwin, who had this seat before you, she used to come in here and tell me that the people in the 144th District were the best people in the state of New York.
I agree 100% with Jane Corwin, my predecessor, who was a tremendous advocate for Western New York. He's been a great mentor to me along the way. And I will say this for Assemblywoman Jane Corwin, she was great during this transition period in making sure I was fully prepared to enter office on January 1st.
Anytime I meet somebody from Niagara County, too, I ask them about Assemblyman Dave Seaman, who's an old friend of mine who used to have an assembly seat from that area. And you told me, oh, yeah, I know Dave Seaman.
I know Dave Seaman very well. I worked for Assemblyman Dave Seaman in the Assembly from 1995 to 1998 as a young intern when I was a student at Niagara University. And I was so honored and privileged back home for my local swearing-in ceremony to have a family court judge, retired family court judge, and Assemblyman Dave Seaman swear me in. It was truly an honor and a privilege for that, and it meant a lot to me.
Dave Seaman, if you're watching this program, hello to you from back, your old friends back here in Albany. Let's get going here. Sure. January 2017, you've been, a member of the Assembly now for a few weeks, so you're kind of an old hand at this now. We're going to be talking to Assemblyman Mike Norris about what's going on here at the state capitol. That is our charge for you folks that are watching, and a lot is already going on here, right? This year we have hit the ground running. We have heard the governor's budget proposals. We're going to be talking about that just a little bit. But there was one kind of important piece of business that needed to happen even before any of that. And we're going to show you folks what that is right now. It's the swearing in of our new Assembly members, including Mike Norris.
Swear.
Good afternoon. I would just like to thank Leader Cole and the Republican Conference for all that they do, and I'm looking so forward to the opportunity to serve as member of the conference and as a member of the state. I would also like to just thank my family in this room, my mom and my dad. My 86-year-old grandmother is also here, all my friends. It's really going to be a privilege to look forward to this program. Thank you.
So I'm going to make the leap here and say that was your wife who was there in the in the picture with you?
Yeah, it was my mom, actually.
That was your mom?
Yes.
See?
Yes. Wonderful lady, and she was there that day, along with my dad, and my 86-year-old grandmother was in the audience as well. What a privilege it was to have them.
How nice to have it as a family affair and to bring your grandmother along, too. Very nice.
Thank you.
So you're here in Albany. You've been sworn in. You meet the Assembly Minority Leader, Brian Kolb. You go into the chamber. What are you thinking about on this first day of yours as you become a member of the New York State Assembly?
What I was thinking about are all the people back home, the people I've met along the way, the farmers in my district, the veterans in the district, the volunteer fire company members in my district, the teachers, the nurses. When I entered the chamber for the first time, I really realized that I have a unique opportunity and a privilege to represent all of these people and to make sure we provide for good paying jobs, strong economic development, and be a fighter for them. It was really, in some regards, overwhelming to realize that this awesome responsibility is on you. And I will say, as Speaker Hasty says, this is the people's house during his speech. And I'm one of 150 people out of 19 million in our state. And to have this opportunity, I really appreciate the voters of my district sending me here, and I will fight very hard in being a strong advocate for them.
One of the things you get to do before you actually become the member of the Assembly is you get to campaign for the seat, and you get to meet a lot of people. And I'm guessing that's your reference point right there. You probably talked to an awful lot of people who wanted to let you know what they think about what goes on at the state capitol. And I'm going to guess that a lot of what they've heard the past couple of years, they're not too happy with.
No, they are not very happy. You know, with the corruption that has taken place, unfortunately, with previous members of the legislature, ethics reform is a major issue that I'm going to be spearheading in the Assembly. For example, coming up is a pension forfeiture bill. What that bill is it would require elected officials who are convicted of a felony not to receive their pension. I think this is very fair. If someone does wrongdoing in their public office, they should not be receiving a pension from the people of the state of New York. I am proud to say that I've gone on that bill as one of the sponsors of this bill, and hopefully it'll be coming up. And then the voters will have an opportunity, hopefully this fall, because it requires a constitutional amendment to actually approve the pension forfeiture. And I'm a strong advocate of that. Also, there's other things for ethics reform. For example, term limits on legislative leaders. One thing I've already found here, only being here 29 days or 30 days, is that things happen very, very quickly and very secretive in some regards. I will sit down at my chair in the chamber and they will throw bills at me. We should open the process up more and have more accountability, let the sunshine come in. And one of those things I think would be helpful is to make sure we put term limits on the legislative leaders of committees and in leadership and open up the process more. And also, one other point on ethics reform is to have full disclosure of outside income so the people back home know exactly what type of income you are receiving as in your private life and also as a member of the State Assembly.
As you and I sit here and tape this program today, there's a former Speaker of the Assembly, a former Senate Majority Leader who have both been convicted of crimes having to do with their positions, who ran afoul of some of the very things you're talking about. And one of the things that upsets the people that are watching this program a lot, and all the people of the state, is that they're going to go to prison. They're going to serve some jail time. And while they're sitting in prison, they're going to be collecting their pension benefits. And that's that bill you talked about, the pension forfeiture. That speaks right to that, because a lot of people are thinking if they've used their positions, why are they still collecting a pension benefit from the state?
It's outrageous. I mean, if folks do wrongdoing and they're found of it, convicted of a felony in the court of law, then they should not be receiving a pension from the taxpayers of the state of New York when they're found doing wrongdoing in their position. Just not right.
One of the issues that seems to be front and center here at the Capitol this year is what's known as ride sharing. People have heard of Uber, they've heard of Lyft. Is that something that the people you represent are interested in? Is it maybe when you were going door to door, running for the office, maybe some people talk to you about that?
Yes, when I run door to door, when I've been out at community events, this really is a number one issue across the district, what I'm hearing right now. For example, I personally have taken Uber. I was down in Washington, D.C. I had the privilege to be there for President Trump's inauguration. And we were there, and I used Uber firsthand to go from the airport right over to the hotel. What a great opportunity. In New York City, the taxi capital of the world, they have ride sharing and Uber, but people upstate do not. That's just not fair. For example, we have a major event coming to the Buffalo area. We have March Madness, and we're going to be hosting a couple of days of basketball. I'm a big NCAA fan. And we should have, the people of our district should have ride-sharing opportunities. I will say that it's important that we make sure that there's appropriate insurance limits and appropriate safety concerns, and we are working through those fine details here. But I'm a strong advocate, and I encourage anybody out there to please go to my website and to sign on to a petition for ride sharing in support of it. I'm collecting this information. I'll be presenting it to the governor and my colleagues in the legislature, and so I encourage anyone out there to please go to my website, sign on to my ride sharing petition, and join this fight so we all in upstate New York can have ride-sharing services in our area.
It's odd to think that it can be there in New York City and not allowed in the other parts of the state. I don't even understand why people would have an issue with that.
there should be no problem with it, and we should be very supportive of this and making sure it's done in a safe way, of course. But please, let's help. I ask the constituents to please join me, sign my petition, and I will send these names onto the governor and onto my fellow colleagues and try to get this thing done.
It's been a popular thing. You mentioned your experience with it down in Washington at the Trump festival down there. I'd love to talk to you more about that too, but I don't know that we're going to have time today. We've got other business to talk about here. As I mentioned earlier on in the program, the governor has released a budget proposal to the legislature. This is his numbers, what his priorities are in spending, what they would be for the coming fiscal year. He did it in a different way. He usually gives a big presentation. This time he just kind of said, here's some books and some paper with some numbers on them. What do you think about what you've seen? And the budget's a big document, but what do you think about what you've seen and the direction he wants to take the state this year?
Okay, first of all, I do applaud the governor for going out and talking to the people throughout the regions. However, I was disappointed that he did that in Buffalo when I was here in session in Albany. And when he was in Albany, we were back home in our districts. And so I would just encourage the governor to just consider in the future coming back and having an open dialogue with the full legislature and doing the traditional state of the state. I'm not critical that he went out and spoke with the constituents, but I think he should also be working cooperatively with the state legislature. On the budget itself, $152 billion document, I have got some concerns about hidden fees that are in there. For example, very simple, the car title. A car title right now is a charge of $25. In the budget, he wants to raise that to $75. Also, another example would be a tax on third-party Amazon transactions in terms of the collection of sales tax. These are the little things that add up. They're too burdensome on the people of the state of New York, and all these fees and all of these taxes are adding up and really driving people out of the state. Another thing that I'm very concerned about that affects my district in particular is the reduction of $4 million in library aid. That is very troubling. In my district, the 144th has a lot of rural towns, and some folks do not even have a broadband internet because it's not there. And that should be, quite frankly, a basic right, just like having electricity and telephone and cell phone. But because of the lack of broadband, which we're working on very hard, and we'll get into it in a different program, these libraries are critically important so our students and our constituents can go there and actually use them where they don't have broadband at home. So these are the things that I'm concerned about. Another quick point is on the STAR. The STAR rebate, right now he wants to freeze STAR. So if whatever the number is you receive today, that's what you'll be receiving in the future. And on enhanced STAR for our senior citizens, he wants to make sure every year you recertify the income when they already had that information through the tax department. So these are some things that I'm looking at, that I'm scouring through, and I just encourage us to have a full and open dialogue as we go forward to make sure upstate Western New York, the 144th, is protected going forward.
I know you don't have a lot of experience with this. You don't have any experience with this budget process yet, but are you concerned that the governor seems to be a little standoffish with the legislature? There's going to be a lot of negotiation have to be done between the two to get a budget in place.
I am concerned about that, and I just encourage him. I'm a very optimistic person in general. I just encourage the governor and his staff and all individuals to work together cooperatively, because there are serious issues that are facing us, economic issues facing us. And I do have some concerns, but I'm confident that we will be able to negotiate and get a fair budget for everyone, including upstate New York.
Assemblyman Mike Norris, thanks for stopping by and taking a few minutes to speak with us and let the folks who you represent back home know what's going on at the state capitol. Look forward to doing that with you more this year.
I'm looking forward to it too. Thank you very much.
All right. Now, you folks watching want to know how you can reach out to your representative. If maybe you missed him the day he came and knocked on your door, you can get a hold of Mike Norris at the office in Williamsville. You can call 839-4690, 839-4690, or send him an email at norrism@nyassembly.gov. Mike Norris, thank you again. Thank you folks too for spending your time. We'll hope to see you soon for our next edition of Assembly Calendar.